Welcome back to the fish room, everyone. Today we are going to be doing a full tour of the entire fish room slash fish factory slash my breeding room. This is my new food, bug buffet. These guys absolutely love it. There's something about the bugs that they just can't get enough of. We just get so many, you don't even know what to do with them. 15 or so different varieties of rainbows at the moment. It's absolutely nuts. There's also more breeding tanks. I haven't done a video on this place for a very long time. There's a few reasons we've had to build the place. For a long time we didn't have lights and all this other stuff, so we finally got it done. And it's starting to get to a stage where we got lots and lots of fish. If you like rainbow fish, if you like plecos, cories, cichlids, all sorts of stuff, this is gonna be a really good video for you to watch. So like, grab a drink, grab a snack, sit down. It's probably gonna be a bit of a long one, but we're gonna go through the whole setup. I'm not gonna go through every single tank because that's just gonna take us forever. There's like over 250 tanks in here. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna start out by like having a quick look around, explain a few things, and kind of let you guys know about the fish room. For everyone who doesn't know, I do have an online store where you can buy fish. So if you wanna support me, buy fish down there. You can only buy fish if you're in selected states in Australia. And for this video, I'll also do like a little coupon code so you guys can get a little bit of a discount. We also do have an in-person store where you can come and pick up locally bred fish. So we are located in Brisbane here in Yeerongpilly. It's a tiny shop. We're only open on Saturdays now. So look at the fish online. Those are the fish we'll have in the shop. Come and have a look. Come buy something and come say hi. I'm here most weekends. Anyways, so we'll start out in here. This is the shop. It's a small shop. It's only 16 meters squared. I think there's 52 tanks in here. And basically the idea of this shop, we're not designed to sell tanks or, you know, equipment, all that stuff. I literally just want to sell my fish. I love breeding fish and I just want to sell really high quality fish. So you'll see like we've got tanks just, you know, absolutely jam-packed with fish. Up here, these are my painted rainbows. I got these from like a mate breeder, Darcy, for probably 6 months ago as mops. So he brought in like a bunch of mops with eggs on them. And I love when my customers do that because then it means I get new fish. And we hatched them out in buckets, raised them up, and we now have them for sale. So these are the painted rainbows. As they get a little bit older, the males will just look so fantastic. So we do have these available online, but this is just an example of one of the tanks you'll see in here. There's probably 75 different painted rainbows in here, which isn't what you'd normally see in stores. Like you might see like 10 or so, but these are all bred by us out back. Well, not bred by us, hatched out by us out back. Yeah, so this is the shop, that's the idea. We're gonna go through here in a little bit, but let's go have a look out back and have a look at some of the breeding tanks. You can see now we're leaving the shop. It's only a tiny little store, but now we're out the back. So originally this area here, like these racks here, were gonna be my quarantine racks, and they still kind of are. You can see here we've got like a few odds and ends fish that are still transitioning from, you know, other rooms and other tanks and stuff like that. All the tanks are on separate system in this whole entire store, so that helps to make sure that we don't have like disease getting through the tanks and all of that. But so we still use these tanks as quarantine. Now that we're breeding heaps of fish, I don't really buy many fish in. It's kind of become a little bit of dead space. There's a lot of empty tanks here, and this is probably gonna turn into more breeding tanks for me very soon. I do buy fish in on occasion, things like neon tetras and cardinal tetras and things that people kind of always ask for. And I always buy from local breeders too. So occasionally we'll buy imported fish, but I just prefer to buy local fish. Better for the environment. I prefer to support local people in their hobbies. Fish are normally healthier, so that's a real bonus. This is a perfect example of us turning this into a breeding rack. These are some Bosmani rainbow fish. These are my brood stock. They are getting really old, but these can live for a long time. These must be about 3 years old at this point, and you can just see how fantastic rainbow fish look. They're never gonna look like this in store, ever. Like, and that's the problem with rainbows, is people don't understand this. Rainbows never, ever look like this in store. If they did, they'd sell for millions of dollars. You have to really be patient with rainbows, and it took me a long time to get these fish to look this good and to be this healthy. So we're actually breeding these. I have heaps of them available at the moment down below. They're only gonna be little, they're not gonna have the same color as these adults do, and you're gonna have to wait 6 months before they start to look this good. You can see they're super healthy and happy. One of my favorite rainbow fish, and they do get quite big, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we're turning this area into a little breeding tank. So there's far more breeding tanks than this out back. So this is where it starts to really open up, and every time I take people back here, I think it kind of blows them off their feet, because it still blows me off my feet how many tanks are in this fish room. People see the front, they don't realize how many tanks are out back. So all of these tanks here are my little 2-foot breeding tanks. We use these tanks for spawning fish. Normally we'll start out, with our colonies, like you saw with those Bosmanis. We'll take the parents, move them on, and then the babies will come up. The babies will reach a certain size, and then they'll go out here to our grow out area. So these are only 4-foot tanks. I think we've got 70 of them. And this is where we grow out the fish. So for instance, these are the babies of the parents that you saw before. So far less, not as much color, but super happy, super healthy. And they're probably a year away from looking like their parents do. I prefer buying fish as babies, watching them grow up and turn into really cool fish. And then when they have babies as well, like see the whole life cycle, it's really cool. So yeah, these are the grow out tanks. Fish will come in here, we'll grow them out to sellable size and then move them into the shop, or they'll go wholesale, or they'll go to you guys through the website. There's also more breeding tanks. So this is gonna be a long video. Like we've only just kind of scratched the surface here. Out here, one of my favorite rooms. This used to be kind of like an office when we first got the place, and now it's a fish breeding room. So in here, we only have 2-foot tanks. You can see lots of fish. You'll notice not as many big fish. At the moment, there's a ton of babies in here that we're just raising up, and they'll eventually go into those 4-foot tanks out back. But you can come past here and you'll just see the sheer quantity of tanks. Today, we're definitely not gonna be able to go through every single tank today. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the shop and we'll have a look at some of my favorite fish that we bred, and then we'll go to all of the breeding tanks and have a look. And yeah. Something that's changed in the shop since you guys would have last seen it is this area. In a previous video, I built this big, dirty, better rack system, trying to make a system that would work like this here. So this is like an Aqua One better rack. You'll see them in pet shops all over. The problem with that system was it became real hard to clean, and us being only open on the one day, we don't sell that many betters. So I had 50 tanks with betters, and I wasn't turning over as much as I should be. And I just, had to be honest with myself and cut down how many better tanks I had. Part of that was getting a smaller better system. I think this looks better, honestly, than my other system. So the other system does work. It'd be great for breeders, but at the moment, this is doing a way better job for me. And it also cleared out a bunch of space for us to put these shelves. So now we can sell all of our dry goods here, because what'll happen is you'll have people coming here and we're checking them out in the shop. And while they're waiting here, it's the perfect time for them to be oh, well, I'll grab some food, or I'll grab a cave or something like that. So way more efficient use of the space. And it's also allowed us to have more tanks down the bottom. So we've got 12 tanks down here. They're looking a little bit dirty. We've been wearing them in. They're starting to get there. I mean, look at this tank, it's gone completely green, but tanks with fish are doing a lot better. So this is for all our nano fish. We do have a few species of shrimp here, nothing crazy at the moment, but something cool that I have here is these spotted blue eyes. So not many people know about these fish. They're a really perfect little nano fish. They're an Australian native, and they're found all over the northern parts of Australia, so Northern Territory and North Queensland. I do have a video coming out soon where I went and collected some of these from up north in Cairns. These ones I didn't collect, so I bought these from someone and bred them up, but gorgeous little fish. They only get about 1 inch in size, and great for nano tanks. Males look fantastic. I'm really proud of these fish here. We bred them all up ourselves and had a lot of fun doing it. Up in this tank, we have some of our German blue rams. These are only little guys. They do have a little bit of growing to do, but they're the first of our new German blue rams that we've been breeding here. So these are a line I've had for a little while. They don't look as blue as they're gonna look when they're adults. I do have some bigger adults out back that I can show you a little bit later, but yeah, there's quite a few in here. These are available online. I can pick out pairs really well too. So if you want a pair to try and breed, we sell them in pairs. So that's really useful. So you don't have to buy 6 of them and pair them up. I can just send you a pair. In here, we have these little angelfish that we bred ourselves. Interestingly enough, we had a black and a gold angelfish. We crossed them together, and then we got these weird smoky sort of ghost angelfish out of it. I've got them in here to see if people would be interested. I could line breed these in the future, but again, I don't know really the demand for black angelfish. I think a lot of people, when they get an angelfish, they want color. They haven't been insanely popular, but I just want to show you them in case you guys find them cool, and maybe I should do a little bit more with them. But yeah, it was a really weird crossover. These 2 tanks down here are pretty cool as well. In these tanks, I have Skull Creek rainbows, and Napawensis cories. The Napawensis cories are really easy to breed. They lay tiny little eggs and they've been really fun to breed. Because they're called Napawensis cories, people don't know what they are. So I started calling them Galaxy cories and they started to sell a little bit better. We do have a few of these available on the website. They're a great little nano cory, but they're in here as well with these Skull Creek rainbows. These were a rainbow fish that have a really interesting story. So you're gonna see a lot of rainbows in this video. I've been breeding a ton of them and I've been really right into them, and for a good reason. You guys should be too. For a long time, people thought these Skull Creek rainbows were Maccullochais, which is another species of rainbow fish found up north. So these are found in the Northern Territory. Eventually they proved that the Skull Creek was a completely different species, and I don't even know what I'm trying to say about them. They're just really cool. We bred all the fish in this tank. Same with this tank here. We've got some beautiful turquoise rainbows and you can see them all there. Like, they just look fantastic. Another classic rainbow fish. Everyone knows about these, the Lacustris. There's also some panda cories in here. And we bred all these ourselves as well, which I'm really proud of. But yeah, I reckon that's enough of the shop. We could spend all day in here. There's a lot of fish in here, but I really want to show you the breeding room. We'll go to our first breeding rack, and here we have a few different rainbows. I'm telling you, we've got heaps of rainbows at the moment that I'm breeding. I just really like them. I don't know, I get into these phases where I like plecos, I like cories, I like this and that. Right now for me, it's rainbow fish. I think a lot of people in the hobby have started to get into it, so yeah, there's a ton of cool ones to collect. They're kind of like little Pokemons, and I really like going and grabbing them. So these here, these are Parkinsoni orange rainbow fish. They don't look that amazing yet, they're only little, but I have been breeding a few batches of these. Maybe not my favorite rainbow, but still pretty cool. The reason they're kind of popular is once they get full size, the males just look so cool. So they don't really look like that right now, but they are at breeding size. So we got them in here with a mop, so I'll be laying their eggs in there. And they have got a few babies in other tanks. Next door, I'm borrowing these from Darcy again. He's got a ton of really cool fish, and he's dropped off a nice trio of these Blair eyes. There's 2 males and a female in here, and they have been spawning. I do have fry out of them. They're a nice, bigger, longer rainbow fish. They all have their different colors and patterns, so you can't really compare them. In here, it must just seem like I'm borrowing fish from everyone, but my friend Jason dropped these off for me. These are my golden blue eyes, or Tenalis. So they're a pseudomogul. These are from the northern parts of Australia, and they're really cool. They're not like my favorite blue eye. I probably prefer the spotted blue eyes over these. Nonetheless, the males are really, really nice. I don't have any of them available yet. They don't lay as many eggs as other fish, but you can see like these guys are flaring up like crazy right now. I don't know if you can see that on camera. We have a few odds and ends down here. Like, I've got some tiger rice fish that I'm hoarding for a video in the future. So I've really gotten into rice fish as well. I've just gotten into, you know, like egg laying fish. So I've got like these tiger rice fish here. I got these from Eliza from Handpicked Aquatics. I'm going to be doing a video on her place in the future. I've just gotten these in the last few days. I'm going to be doing a breeding video with them. They're really cool because, you know, you don't have to worry about temperature. They're colorful, easy to breed, and they grow quick. And I just think, like, for beginners, they're honestly better than guppies. Like, they're easily one of the best beginner fish. I recommend them to tons of customers who come in. And to get these tiger pattern ones is really, really cool. I've only had like the platinums for a long time, and yeah, it's cool to get something different. Next door we have more rice fish. These are black rice fish, but again, I'm not gonna call them that black. They're more of like a silver kind of color. I do want to line breed them and get them to an actual jet black. Down here in this rancid green tank, I have a really cool fish. I've got the Ficcatus in here. So these are another blue eye. These are the yellow variant. I have 3 pairs in here, and I have been getting some eggs from them. We can actually check for eggs right now because I wanted to see if they've been spawning today. So basically what I do is just chuck a mop in the tank with all my blue eyes, like you can see. And I just leave it in there, and I check kind of like once a day to see if there's any eggs. I feed them lots of really good food. Let's have a look. They don't lay that many. Like these guys, yeah, there is eggs. So there's an egg there. They actually lay pretty big eggs for blue eyes. There's normally more. There's another one down here. So that's pretty cool. I have to come pick these out later this afternoon. Hopefully they don't eat them. I just don't have the numbers up yet with them. Like normally when I get new fish species, what I try and do is I'll put them in their quarantine tanks. So these are technically all in their own quarantine tanks at the moment. And then I'll try and breed them in there and get my F1s. So that's like your first generation of fish, because that's gonna be your best brood stock. You're not gonna get your best brood stock from the original fish you buy. You wanna get those to breed and then get your own like line of fish that have only lived in your fish room and use those for your breeding, because you'll just have way more success. So at the moment, I'm kind of in that process with these. I have finished that process with one of my favorite blue, or they have to be my favorite blue eye, over on this end. So these are the Luminatus. A lot of people already know about these fish. I have 10 in here that I bred myself, and I've got plenty more out back that we have raising up at the moment, but I'm using these for a breeding video at the moment. They are definitely the best looking blue eyes. So they're from New Guinea. They breed the exact same as the Ficcatus that I was just showing you before, and I do the exact same things with raising them up, but for some reason these guys seem to lay a little bit more eggs for me, so they're a real cool fish and I've absolutely loved keeping them recently. Brings us over to our second rack. So this is a cool tank up here, a little bit of an experiment tank for me. These are pygmy cories. So I kid you not, this is another awesome customer that's come in, Andrew. He bought 10 of these from me at Christmas. From that 10, he came in with a bucket of them because he had to take down the tank because he was moving. He brought in like 100 from the same 10. He just gave them to me, which was absolutely awesome. And I thought I'd honor his line of fish. I had to go up breeding them too. I threw the original 10 that he gave me in here 2 months ago now. There is an absolute ton of fish. Underneath this mop, it's gonna be chaos. You're probably not gonna see anything yet, but you're just gonna see a ton of stuff move around. You see them all flying around the tank. They're pretty elusive for fish, especially in a tank like this, where they have lots of hiding places. They're one of the coolest fish, and I'm definitely doing a video on these in the future. If you want to pick up some local bred ones, they're available. But yeah, they're a cool fish, like definitely one of the easiest beginner cories. They're hardy, they're small, so they can go in like a tiny tank, and they're so small that they can't even eat their own eggs. So like they lay eggs in here all the time. They just colony breed like guppies. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Some Praecox babies in here. I don't mind if the water gets a little bit green in my tanks. I find it helps a lot of the rainbow fish to grow up properly. But yeah, these are some Praecox. Threadfin babies, these are a really cool rainbow fish. These are from the northern parts of Australia as well, up in the Northern Territory. I'd love to get out and collect these at some point. I got a group of these and I only had females, so I actually had to borrow a male from Darcy again. See, I'm borrowing fish from everyone. We got a ton of babies straight away. So up here, we've got a few of these growing out. They take a long time to look as beautiful as they do. Like you do have to grow them out for 4 months, 5 months before they start looking like their parents, which is the annoying thing about rainbow fish, because it does make them hard to breed commercially, just because, you know, it's easier to breed a rice fish that takes a month to get to sellable size that you can sell for like $1 than it is to grow out something that takes like 6 months that sells for maybe $5. So it's one of those things where you just have to have a lot of passion and heart and just trust that people eventually will buy them. At the same time, they're just fun to do, and I like seeing them grow out. I don't mind waiting. It's good practice for me to be patient. So yeah, these are a really cool rainbow fish. Next door, we have some daisy blue rice fish that have snuck into this tank, but they're in here with these Luminatus. So I do have quite a few Luminatus coming through. You can see like why they get their name. You know, even at this tiny size, they still have those little luminescent eyes, which is pretty cool. Cool tank down here with a ton of babies in it, but they're tiny and you're not gonna see them unless I get in real close. But in here we have pea puffers. So there's one here, 2 here actually, but I've been growing these out. They must be a couple weeks old now. These are a great fish to sell here. I do have these available down below. I have to be the cheapest seller in Australia, and they still cost $80 as of 2023. There's no one here that breeds them in Australia. You can't import them. So it's kind of like whoever's got them has them, and they're an expensive fish at the moment. So yeah, some people go, oh, in the States we get them for $1. Unfortunately, I can't sell them for $1. They cost a lot of money to feed and a lot of money to breed properly. A lot of people will find that the fish that, you know, cost $1 to $5 overseas are actually wild caught and not captive bred. Everyone has their own thoughts about wild caught fish. I think, you know, in some instances catching wild fish is good because it helps a lot of these third world countries to have income, and it actually protects their ecosystems. I've heard Corey from Aquarium Co-op talk about that. I agree with that, definitely. But I think at some point there's like a line where like if we can be captive breeding stuff, we should be doing it. So these are an expensive fish to breed because I have to import worms, and the worms cost me like $100 for 500 grams. So like, that's why they're also expensive, but I do have some of these available. They're a super fun fish to breed, and I've made a video on it in the past. I'll come around this side. We do have lots of babies here. This tank's pretty cool. I like these a lot. These are the Australia orange killifish. So I actually bred all of these. These are my F1s. You can see just how good the males look. I have these available down below. I think I have 3 pairs of them in here, and they breed all the time. They're kind of like the blue eyes, where I just leave a mop in here and then check it every couple of days to see if there's eggs in it. These can actually dry out and hatch like 6 months later, and that's normally how they breed. They lay their eggs in the mud, it dries out during the dry season, the fish die, but the eggs stay alive. And then when it rains again in the wet season, the eggs hatch out, the fish come out, and it kind of completes their life cycle. Because I don't want to do that, I don't want to dry them out, they eventually just hatch after 50 days. So what I do is I'll squeeze my mops out, have a quick look for eggs. So yeah, they're teeny tiny little eggs. Basically what you can do is just pick this egg, and yeah, it'll dry out and it'll hatch, or what I'll do is I'll just throw it into like a random tank. I've been putting them up here, and you just leave them for 50 days and they end up hatching out, and you just raise them up that way. So these have a funny story up here. These are some prey cocks. Now, as for rainbow fish, one of the most common, probably one of the best looking, and they're great because they don't get too big. In here I have 4 prey cocks that I got from Jason. The funny thing about these rainbows, so I was breeding a lot of prey cocks for a while, and I think what happens is at some point someone crosses in 2 types of rainbows. So like they might cross in like a turquoise and a prey cocks because they're both melanotania. What happens is then it just ruins the future prey cocks, and you start getting these weird mutt looking fish, and they don't look good. These are pure prey cocks. So these came in the 80s, and there was a man who was taking care of these and breeding them and line breeding them to look like to be the best looking prey cocks for a long time. I was breeding these wholesale bought rainbows and they just didn't look good. And I told Jason, and he gave me these ones. And ever since, it's completely fixed up my breeding. These are definitely the best line of prey cocks in Australia. I mean, they've got to be one of the best. But I've only got 4 in here. These are my adults, and this is all you need to breed prey cocks, because you can see in here, I mean, they just look absolutely stunning. Look at that. Right next door, we have the babies. So you can see they're all in here. To get them to all come out, I'll give them some food. Over here, we have a little mystery container. This is a project I've also been working on for a while, and it's not going to be ready for a little bit longer, but I am releasing a fish food, and you guys are going to get to see it first here. So we've got a little sample pack in here. So this is my new food, bug buffet. We'll sample feed it to these fish. This is honestly such an awesome food. It's, you know, for a long time, I've wanted to make my own food. A lot of the commercially bought foods and prepared foods, in my opinion, aren't the best. A lot of them contain, you know, ingredients like fish meal and, you know, spirulina and all sorts of stuff that I don't agree with for freshwater fish. I don't want to completely pick an argument with spirulina, but spirulina is a marine algae. Feeding marine algae with high protein content to algae eaters that eat freshwater algae with a lower protein content doesn't make sense to me. So this fish food is made with insect meal, shrimp meal, chlorella, which is a freshwater algae. In my opinion, it's an awesome product. So the cool thing about this food is it comes in a pellet form. It'll come like a little pellet like this. Now it's quite a soft and brittle food. There's a reason for that. It's a great breeding food. We use it for every single tank here. You can crush it up and feed it to the fish at the top. So they all know it's about to come. But if you crush it up, you can crush it up into tiny little pieces, which are excellent for tiny little fish. These guys are only just starting to learn how to eat this food. So what'll happen is they'll slowly sink down and they'll pick at what they want. Yeah, it's super, super good for growing out fish. It's an insect-based food, and I honestly swear by this stuff now. So it's real awesome. Another thing the food can do is it can also sink. Say you have like a tank, like a community tank with, you know, neon tetras, shrimp, and like some cories or something like that. A lot of the time when you feed flakes and that up the top of the tank, the neons or whatever fish are at the top will eat all the flakes, and then the cories down the bottom don't get anything. The cool thing about this food is it sinks. So if you don't want to break it up at the top of the water, you can just throw it in and the pellets just sink down to the bottom. So in here we have hill stream loaches that I'm breeding for a future project. If there was fish up the top, it's very unlikely, unless I add a ton of food and break it up in that water, that those hill stream loaches are going to get to eat it. So it's really good that I can like throw in a food that's going to get down to the bottom and then break up down the bottom and let them eat it. So yeah, I absolutely swear by this stuff now. You can feed it up here to these are Morse redfin rainbows. And I've got some things down the bottom. What are these? The Napawensis cories down the bottom, helping clean up the food as well. So yeah, it's just a great food to feed a community tank, or in general, like it's just a really awesome product that I'm really happy with. So it's gonna be out very soon, but yeah, that's gonna be cool. So we'll keep going around and having a look at all the fish. Up in this tank, we have my spotted blue eyes. I'm gonna call these guys my line. I'm not the first person to collect these specific fish. These are one of the coolest spotted blue eyes that I've seen. They have really long white fins. The females of spotted blue eyes don't look that flash, but the males look fantastic. There's a real awesome male in here. You'll see he's constantly flaring up at the females trying to breed. I've been breeding a ton of these since I collected them. So we actually went up to Cairns, drove down to New Benangi Swamp and collected these where there's crocodiles and things like that, which is kind of sketch. Shipped them back down here and we've been breeding them. And yeah, they're a real cool fish. So I'm nearly at the point where I can start selling some of these, but I've just got to get our little babies a little bit bigger. Over on this side, we got more of the same, lots of rainbows, lots of babies. We actually have a pretty interesting experiment going on here. So I'm not trying to actually achieve anything with doing this. I'm just interested to see what happens. And that's the cool thing about having a lot of tanks that can play around with stuff now. In here, we have 4 tanks where I've set up different colors of shrimp for an experiment video. So all of these are neocaradinas. I added 10 of each different color. So like 20 shrimp per tank mixed between, 10 yellows and 10 reds. And we're leaving them to see what happens and if we get any cool crosses. So kind of a cool project. For instance, we got orange and reds here, yellow and reds, blue and orange, and blue and yellows. And I've only had the project going for like a month at the moment, so there's a few babies starting to pop up, but we're not gonna start seeing real results for maybe another 2 or 3 months. Last time I did this, I crossed yellows and blues and I got green, which was kind of cool. So I'm not trying to get like a specific shrimp, but I just wanted to see what happens if you cross shrimp. Up here, another fish I'm borrowing. These are, again, I think these are from Darcy. These are my Melander rainbows. Well, they're not mine, but I've been breeding them. These are an interesting one. They're called the Melander Gold. The females of these rainbows don't look that amazing, but the males, when they're flaring up, look so cool. So they're like kind of a reddy sort of gold color. They're a tiny little rainbow fish from up north in the Atherton tablelands. I'll have to go out and try and collect them at some point, but I have got some babies of them up here. They're just super tiny. They're like little hairs at the moment. But this is a good example of, the same food, the same pellet, I can break it up and feed it to these guys as well. Even though they're so tiny, you probably won't even pick them up on camera, they're that small. And then I'll feed all of the babies in there. It's a real versatile food, and it's definitely something you'll need, I think, for breeding fish, Now, everyone who sells a product says that, but it's something that I swear by, I really do. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on in this rack. And what we'll do is we'll head into the back room, have a look at some of the other projects, and then check out the grow outs. Probably the most interesting tank here, or something I'm super proud of, is I did one little batch of L134s. These are probably the hardest pleco to breed in the entire hobby, from what I've heard. So like all my pleco breeder mates have told me how hard these are to breed. They're just one that even the professionals like Pleco Ceramics and stuff says that, they're just one that you can't predictably breed. So I kind of got lucky, probably overfed the tank or something like that happened, and then they decided to have a spawn. The results of that are in here. We got a few little leopard frog babies that are ready to go, or almost ready to go to their new homes. They absolutely love the food and they've been growing up on it, but I'm pretty proud of that. Not like I did anything crazy to the tank, but I'm just happy we got some babies in the end. And then down here, these are another fish I got in as a mop, and now they're adult fish, but these are really cool. These are the Melanitania sexliniata. The cool thing about these fish is it's like a gold fish with pink lips. Hopefully very soon I'll have some of these breeding and hopefully get some of them for sale. They're one that definitely needs to get around. So up here in this tank, this is another cool rice fish. So like the Medakas that I was showing you before, these breed the exact same conditions, everything like that. They're just a different species and they're a blue rice fish. So these are the Daisy Blues rice fish. I have heaps of these available at the moment. These are my breeding colony. And they like to hide up the back when the camera's around. But I'll try and bring some of them out front so you can have a better look. But yeah, these are a real cool one. The males kind of look like rainbow fish. They're honestly really similar to rainbow fish, but they're just a nice little pond fish, honestly. They go in all sorts of environments. Yeah, they're just really cute. That's max size there, so yeah, it's pretty cool. There's probably eggs in that mop too, I'll actually check it. They breed all the time. They breed often and they breed in large amounts. Yeah, there you go. So you can see here on the mop, some eggs there, teeny tiny. A little rice fish egg. Over in these tanks, I have some of the other varieties of rainbow fish, and I also have my plecos. So I have some L333s up here. In all honesty, I haven't had much success with these since I got into this room. I had a real rogue male who was running around killing all my females. Honestly, I'm not that interested in breeding these again. It's a bit disheartening to see a male just kind of rip through your whole colony, but that's what happens with fish. Next door, I have my adult L134s. These are part of a pretty cool system of tanks. So in these 9 tanks here, I have the ability to turn rainwater on them. So all the fish tanks in the whole entire facility now run off tap, and they're all on automatic water changes. That makes my life a lot easier. I tried to originally run all of our tanks off rainwater, and I just found that the rainwater wasn't stable. I constantly was getting tanks crashing just from pH. And so since that, we turned all the tanks into tap water, but we left the option for rainwater on these tanks here and the tanks behind me. So what I can do is turn my water change system on and put tap water in, which is a little bit harder. And then if I want, I can turn on the rainwater and drop the pH and get them to spawn. So they're part of a pretty cool system, but I've had these for a couple of years and yeah, I've only gotten 1 batch out of them. Down here, these are the Herbert axelrodi rainbow fish, or the Lake Taberas. You can see these are real meaty adults now and they just look fantastic. The males get like this beautiful, like light colored, I mean, I can't even describe how good they look when they're flaring up. They're one of my favorites. I have a few of these available on the website down below. They breed like no tomorrow, but yeah, you can just see, I must have like 15 or so different varieties of rainbows at the moment. It's absolutely nuts. Up in this tank, a little bit of another little breeding project here. I was sold these as a super red ram. Maybe 7 months ago, 8 months ago, one of the fish farms here in Australia came out with a super red ram. I didn't have any success with them. When I got them, they didn't look that amazing. And I actually ended up losing all the ones I bought. But a local guy to me ended up breeding these, sold me some to breed myself. So these are the super red ram. They're not really where I want them to be yet. I've got 2 pairs in here and we do have babies of them out back. They definitely look different from a German blue ram, but I think they need a few more generations before we can start to actually call them super reds. So when they're in breeding colors, they start to really get that deep red undertone on their body and they lose a lot of that black spot like you can see with this male here in the front. Yeah, so that's like your male super red there. Yeah, they're a bit of a little side project, I guess you could call it. So that'll be fun to play with soon. So up in this tank, I have a colony of fish which I really love, but haven't had much success with. So 2 years ago, I bought 5 L46 plecos, and then I got another 4. So I still have all 9, and I've grown them out to adult size, but I haven't been able to get them to breed. These are probably one of the rarest plecos here in Australia at the moment. They gotta be kind of frustrating. I feel like I've had a few trappings here and there, but then when I investigated a little bit more, it looked like there was 2 males just trapping each other. So I'm starting to think I actually only have males with this colony. And they're a beautiful fish nonetheless. Again, I'm not too interested in buying more fish at this stage, so I probably would swap a few of them to try and get a female, but it's just one of those ones where you get to the end and then if you don't really quite get there, it's another 3 years, or 2 years of growing out, and people don't want to sell their females and all this kind of gatekeepy stuff with the Australian fish hobby, so it does get a little bit frustrating. Maybe I have a female and maybe I'm just not a good breeder, which is probably more likely. I've got a strong feeling I only have males with my 9. So it's a little bit of a loss, but nonetheless, it's all good and they're still really cool to come look at, and they're like a little reminder of, my last fish room, and these have been with me for a couple of years now, so they're pretty cool. So we also have some breeding colonies of cories. So cories are a great little seller and a really popular fish. These are the panda cories in here. I've had these for years now. These are pretty old fished. So I got 2 tanks of these. Got some more over here. Every time I do a water change, I'll get eggs out of these. And I have some of these available down below too. They're a common one, but they're still pretty fun to keep. Up here, we got the adult pea puffers. So these have been going nuts for me. Something I figured out is these definitely prefer higher temperatures. I've got them in here at 30 degrees now, and you can see all their little breeding organs are out. They've been a lot more lively and looking like they're gonna breed. Whereas I had them in cooler tanks and I was getting 4 babies. Versus putting them in here, I'm probably gonna get a few more. It just looks like they've been a lot more positive in their breeding behavior. It took me a long time to get these up to breeding size, about a year. So I'm pretty proud that I got some of these to actually breed. And these are the original breeders still. Got a few more plecos here. I'm probably just gonna skip past these. These are the L270s. Same story as the L333s. I don't think I have females, so I haven't had any babies out of here. I've had these spawn a few times. These are my L201s. Probably one of my favorite plecos. I think my favorite pleco has got to be the 46s. Right after that, it's these tied with the L134s, but they're pretty cool. They've had maybe 5 or 6 spawns since we got in here. This tank, it actually seems that there's some eggs, so yeah, I've got to go pick these out after the video is done. These are my gold laser cories. They're a super skittish one. I barely see them. I'll just come in the morning sometimes and see eggs, but yeah, no, it's gonna be impossible to see these. And then up here we have our L397s. These are a prolific one. They breed quite often for me. They love my food. I haven't got millions of these yet, but they breed all the time. So I'll throw that in there. I'll go nuts for that. Straight into it. That's so satisfying. So you can see, the good thing about it being a nice soft pellet is they get to actually grab it and then chew it a little bit and like take off the bits they want. I find that a hard food doesn't seem like something that they naturally eat and isn't something that I really want to be feeding my fish. So I like having the soft pellets a lot better. They do break up in the water, they do make a little bit of a mess, but I think it's better for the whole entire environment of the tank because like, you know, if you've got shrimp in your tank or if you've got snails, everyone gets a bit of food. And these guys absolutely love it. There's something about the bugs that they just can't get enough of. Over here, we got another tank with a ton of babies. So this is on the other side. In here, we have a ton of Luminatus and CPDs. So these must all be CPDs because no way there's that many Luminatus. But you can see the food comes in real handy here for feeding tiny fish. Just crush up a pellet, let it go all over the top of the tank. As it falls down, these guys will all get something to eat. It works just an absolute treat for them. These are another cool one. These are the Pygmaea rainbow fish, another Northern Territory one. I've only got 3 of them in here. I'm borrowing these from Darcy as well. You can see the males just look so cool. They're one of the cooler looking newer rainbows. I think these will be quite popular, especially as people start seeing males more and more. A lot of these fish, they're so slept on. Like people just need to see them and see them looking good and then they become popular. That's why Bosmanis are so popular. It's not that, you know, they're better than all the other rainbows. It's just that people have actually seen them and seen how good they look. So yeah, that's what happens with these fish. Down here, we got a pair of angelfish that I've been playing around with. These are the Bulgarian green seal points. So I had to grow these out all the way to adult size and they finally started to breed. In all honesty, in a tank like this, where I only have 2 fish and they're only big fish, I don't really like feeding my food too much because the problem is, with it being such a soft food and having no one else to clean it up, it does create quite a mess. You do need like a bristlenose or something in there or a snail to eat up all the crumbs. But they still like it. I mean, throw in the food. They still like it, but they do create quite a bit of a mess eating this stuff. So I might need to add a little bristlenose or something like that in there. You can see they've learnt to pick away at it. They never get bloat. I've never had any issues with bloat with this food. These are a pair of longfin bristlenose. They're pretty common. I mean, you know, they're nothing crazy. I've wanted to breed them for a long time. I actually got these off Harlan, my mate. But we ended up throwing like 10 or so cherry shrimp in here. And the cherry shrimp have just taken over this tank. So I've just kind of left it. And it sort of reminds me of when I first started out breeding. Like when you first start breeding, you get your guppies, you get all this kind of easy to breed things, you know, cherry shrimp. And it just reminds me of like my first kind of breeding attempt with like the bristlenose and the cherry shrimp. So I've just left this tank. There's an absolute mountain of cherry shrimp in here. So like, yeah, they just cover the floor and they love the food as well. Here's some more of the Jason Praycocks. These are a little bit bigger, these ones. These will actually go nuts for that food. See, it's a great food. It's so healthy for them, so. Up here, we also have some more fish. I'll give these guys the dregs. But these are some orange flash pistos that I bred a couple months ago. I've grown them out to adult size, not on purpose. I'll probably use these for breeding in the future. There's a female in here that has been breeding, which is kind of funny. So like even with this many pistos in there, she's in there with a few eggs. I'll probably just leave that in there, honestly. Over here, another rainbow species. I actually own these ones, so. These are my Campsies. So these are a real skittish rainbow, but they look like barracudas. They're a real long one, and they've got like a blue color with like these like tiger stripes on them. A Highland New Guinea rainbow, these are. In here, these we actually collected and bred Dubélé eyes. So these go nuts for food as well. We'll give them some of this. And they'll go bananas for it. So we collected the parents of these and bred them. This is the results of that, which is kind of cool. Up here, this is what happens if you decide to start breeding rice fish. So you'll end up with tanks like this, where you just get so many you don't even know what to do with them. They grow really quick. These are already a month old at this age, but I'll throw a few pellets in there for them. But yeah, they're a really easy fish to breed. You know, we got our blacks in here, and we've also got the white ones in here, the platinums. The platinums are definitely my favorite. They're a real nice line of platinum rice fish that we got. So that brings us to the grow out section of the fishery. We have a ton of tanks here with a ton of fish. Up here we got a few neon blue acaras. These I got as eggs from one of my staff members, and since then we've just been growing them out. I've got hundreds and I don't know what to do with them. But yeah, these guys love the food. Tons of rainbows as well, always growing out. Up here we got some turquoise. These guys just demolish food and they'll just go crazy for it. Rainbow fish are quite skittish compared to other fish, so I find that once they start figuring out that they're being fed, then they go nuts, but before then they don't. As you come along, you can see we've got the cross between the gold and the black angelfish. You can see some of those little ghosty ones coming through, but there's also blacks and there's also silver angelfish, which is kind of interesting. So you can see here, I mean, just the sheer quantity of these acaras, like look at this. It's just unreal. We've got way too many acaras. We got more up here. It's crazy. This is a pretty cool tank actually up here. In a previous video, me, Jason, went out and collected some of these rads. And these are the babies of the rads that we collected. So these are Snapper Creek rads. I actually have these available online as well. They're real skittish. They like to swim in like a big school, but they look real good in a planted tank. And they're like a blue and a black sort of color. In this tank, we've got even more Bosmanis. So these are some of the baby Bosmanis we have at the moment. I just like to throw the food down the bottom for these and they'll all go and pick at it. Up here, we've got a ton of baby Epistos. So these are all super reds. Plenty of these available at the moment. Throw that in there for them. They're so cool. So up here, we have some baby rams in both of these tanks. Up here, these are like real young baby rams. These might be, I think, super red rams. I can't remember. But let's throw some of this in there. Yeah, there's got to be a couple hundred in there. They're very tiny. They're not even a centimeter big yet. These are bigger ones. These are the German blue rams. They're not at sellable size yet, but they're almost getting there. They're a little bit skittish. They don't like me turning on and off the lights. I'll throw this in. So over on this side, we got some big sapphire blue angels that I've been growing out. So I got these from a local breeder. I've been growing these out to adult size so I can start out my own line, but they're still in the stage where, yeah, they're just getting bigger. I'm actually selling some of these on the website as well, just because I bought so many. So yeah, and this is the fry system here. This is obviously copied off of Dean. So I've made a video on this before. I've used these forever. Some baby rams in this container here. And then we've also got some little green angels in this tub. But yeah, I mean, we use this system for like all of our cichlids. So basically just rams and angelfish is the only thing I need to use it for. So over in this tank, we got some baby gold balloon rams. So I've never really had much success with imported rams. Somehow I had success with one batch of gold balloon rams and now I got heaps of them. So these guys love the bug food as well. They're all a bit wigged out from me turning on and off the lights, but it's not even gonna come out. So over on this side, we got a ton more rainbows. Like we got a ton of turquoise rainbows here, almost at sellable size, almost. Super positive reaction to that food. They've been growing on this the whole time here, so. And then in the tank next door, we have the first progeny of a new line of koi angels that I'm working on. It's nothing crazy, like they're just koi angels, but there are a few Bulgarian green angels in here. What I want to do with these koi angels is run a few generations of them and see if I can create like a really nice one. Because here in Australia, for some reason, I can't find really beautiful kois. Like I see them and they just don't stand out to me. So I'd like to make one kind of, you know, really yellow, like yellow and black, and then try and get as much of that white out as possible and just make sure they have a lot of that yellow color. So there is a few really nice ones in here. I mean, like, for instance, like he's a really nice one there. They've all got the long veil tails, which I enjoy as well. It's a nice one there. I have a few of these available on my website as well. They're ready to go to new homes, and I'll keep working on these over the next year or so and see what I can do. But yeah, they're pretty cool. I love angelfish. I've always kept angels. And well, we might wrap it up here. I mean, we're gonna be here for hours if we go and look at every single tank, but those are some of the cool things we got going on in the fish room at the moment. I mean, I've definitely missed stuff. I'm gonna try and do another video and just keep you guys in the loop with what's kind of going on in here. I haven't been doing the best job at it, so I wanna just make sure you guys know all the things I'm working on. I'm still breeding tons of fish. So yeah, we have a ton of cool fish available down below. Check that out. Get ready for the new food. I'm really excited to show you guys it and get you guys to enjoy it as much as I do. It really is just, I use it for everything. It's just a fish food, but I absolutely love it and swear by the stuff. So cool, all right, thanks guys, cheers for watching.